I think we really need people from everywhere to, put themselves out there and talk to people and say, hey, this is what's really going on. This is what we're doing. And this is why we use the management practices that we do.
Hi, everybody. Welcome back to the Comstock channel. I'm Marlon Bowling with you. Always a pleasure to have you with us on these daily podcasts. We cover all things that are ag related, including the ag markets and ag news, what have you. And today is no different. We're going to dive into the realm of social media and also see what's going on in the upper Midwest or the Northern Plains. We're going to talk right now with Zach Johnson, and he is maybe better known as the Millennial Farmer. And he has a very big social media presence, and he posts kind of I guess you would say, Zach, maybe a daily blog, video blog of what happens on the farm there. How would you describe it?
Yeah, it's kind of a daily vlog. We don't post videos every single day, but that's kind of what it is. I start with my, routine, getting stuff ready in the morning, and we get going. And I honestly just show what we do throughout the day here on the farm, depending on what time of year it is. So you kind of get to see the process that we go through the entire season.
So did this start out as a hobby? It seems like it has kind of taken on a life of its own now.
Yeah, it was 100% a hobby when I started it all. The reason I started it was to try to relate to people about agriculture and what's going on really on the family farms in America today. People have become so disconnected, and so I wanted them to be able to actually see from the inside, from a farmer, what's really happening out on the farms. And that's why I started it. Nothing more than a hobby to try to reach people, and it just kind of blew up about a year and a half into it. I had a few videos that took off at the beginning of harvest, and my wife and I kind of decided, let's roll with this and see what happens. And it kind of exploded from there, and we haven't looked back since.
What do you think was the trigger event for that?
I'm not real sure. I know one of the big things is definitely when you get the big machinery out at harvest and you've got a couple of combines rolling next to each other in the fields, and you really get that visual, idea of what's going on out in the heartland. And I think that's something that, when you grow up in the Midwest and you're around it all the time, you can kind of take it for granted. But most people don't get to see that stuff every day. So I think for them, it was like, wow, this is an inside look as far as what's really happening inside the combines and inside the tractors and on the farms.
People in urban areas, they really can't perceive or appreciate the money that's involved in running a farm operation. They may think, wow, I want to buy maybe a Tundra or a Sierra truck or a Ford truck or something like that. Oh boy, $70,000 or $80,000, and that is really hard to achieve. And then they find out what it takes to run a farm operation, and just one piece of equipment that you feature in your videos would just blow their mind.
It's a very unique career. It's a really unique industry, and you look at the cost of everything. I've gotten into some discussions lately about what it costs to grow an acre of corn, and people generally don't believe me. They don't think it could cost that much, and you start breaking it down for them, and there's even a lot of farmers out there that are really surprised when you really include all the costs. What that is per acre is just astronomical. It adds up so quickly.
So what kind of comments do you get from people that aren't from the farm?
I get a lot of comments from people that are not from the farm talking about how interesting it is for them to actually see our perspective and how much more there is to it than they really thought. I think a lot of people figure that we drive tractors for a living. We just spend all day driving back and forth in the fields, and that's what we do. And if you have a tractor with auto steer, then you're just lazy and you don't really have to do anything. Well, what they don't understand is how much management there is behind that. And honestly, driving the tractors, driving the combines, that kind of stuff is the easy part. That's like mowing your lawn on the weekends. That's the satisfying part. But the management that comes along with all of it is really the work that's involved. And I don't sit down and go through my books and every single decision on video, but just to see the work that we're doing throughout the day and the different things that come into play with the weather and the breakdowns and everything, all the moving pieces going, and how to kind of keep the circus moving, right? It's a lot more than what people would expect. And I do get a lot of comments from people outside of agriculture that are kind of shocked to see really how it runs like that.
Well, and I think this is very valuable because it does present to the public the fact that it does prove that farmers have to be a jack of all trades. I mean, you cannot have just one specialty. You have to have a broad base of knowledge to run a farm operation like that. I mean, you have to be an electrician, mechanic, carpenter, businessman, all that, and a marketer too.
Buddy of mine kind of brought it up one time, and I've really thought about it a lot. You know, it's like I'm not really an expert at anything, but I know a little bit about a lot of things. So, you know, I'm certainly not an electrician. I'm not confident in doing that, but if I got to figure out how to connect this wire to that one in the heat of the moment to keep us going, I mean, we'll figure it out.
Yeah, there's a lot of mechanical work involved too. You know, repairing and maintenance on equipment, and that gets harder nowadays too as the equipment gets bigger and more complicated. So, from what I gather, your initial channel here, the Millennial Farmer, gosh, you've got over 1 million subscribers now. How long have you been doing that now?
So I started it in the spring of 2016. So I've gone through 8 full seasons with it now. And it really took off about a year and a half into it is when it started to take off. And it once it took off, it really grew for about 4 or 5 years. And it's leveled off a little bit now the last couple of years. But it hasn't. The subscribers are growing more slowly, and the views are not going up very quickly, but they're still there. So people are still watching. In October, I'd have to look to be sure, but I think it was like 7.5 million views in the month of October. So people are still watching.
So, when you first started this venture as a hobby, like you say, what surprised you most about it when it finally started to take off?
You know, that's a pretty good question. What surprised me the most, one thing that I was always surprised and still am surprised about is how many farmers actually watch it. You know, I started the channel with the intention of talking to non-farmers, and that's kind of who I thought I was talking to. And once it really started blowing up, I started realizing, man, there's a lot of farmers that watch this channel. And I think it's about 50-50 by my best guess. We've done a couple of polls that we've put on the videos to see, you know, which viewers are involved in agriculture and which ones are not. And it's about 50-50. There's a lot of people that are not directly involved in the agriculture industry, but maybe they grew up on a farm or their grandpa farmed or they have some sort of a connection that interests them in it. And then there's also, you know, tens of thousands of people that are watching that come from the cities, from LA, New York, wherever. I mean, I get messages from people in South Africa and Australia and Sweden and all over the world from people that are watching. So you just never know. You can genuinely reach anybody anywhere in the world at any time.
Do you think it has grown to the point where maybe it takes too much time away from the farm operation to where it might be a bit of a distraction to your actual farm?
Oh, it definitely can be at times. For us, I've got my wife, Becky, who is in the background, and her full-time job is managing stuff with the social media. So she's doing all the video editing. She's working with the sponsors, answering emails, stocking up apparel, working with our apparel company, that kind of stuff. And that is a full-time job behind the scenes. And it definitely takes some time from the farm, but you know, when you look at it economically, I mean, for us, it's just a no-brainer. It is our second business, you know, that sort of complements the farm, and so it's been good for us, and it definitely is well worth the time on our end.
The nice thing about it is she doesn't have to commute to do that job.
Yeah,
I'm curious, how did she get trained to do that?
we figured it all out as we've gone along, so it kind of worked out really well. She did in-home daycare for many years, for almost a decade, and about the time that she was looking to get out of that, this YouTube thing took off for us. So she kind of jumped from one thing to another and just figured it out as she went. And you know, same here, same with me. I actually used YouTube to figure out how to start a YouTube channel. So neither of us, I mean, she's much more tech savvy than I am, but neither of us have taken classes in editing or social media or anything like that. We really are just flying by the seat of our pants on this whole deal.
Well, I'm right there with you on that one. I'm the same way. I used to farm in Kansas, and I had to teach myself everything
Yeah.
when it came to editing and all that stuff. So, man, I could totally feel for you. I appreciate that so much. So, where would you like to see this go as you grow and grow and grow here?
You know, I'm not really sure. I mean, right now we're enjoying doing what we're doing. We're making the videos and we're connecting with people, and we're doing events like we're going to be doing with Comstock in I think it's February coming up. And it's just right now it's we've kind of gotten into a rhythm, and we like doing what we're doing, and it's been really rewarding. So for right now, we're kind of just rolling with it and having fun.
I think the important thing about that, and I'm glad you brought that up, because for those that don't know, Zach will be one of our featured panelists at the Family Farm Masterclass coming up in Des Moines, Iowa. That'll be February 21st and 22nd. And he'll be one of the panelists talking about social media work. That is something that might have a lot of appeal to the younger farmers just starting out, where they can maybe pick up some extra income doing this on the farm. It can be maybe a second job where they don't have to leave and they don't have to commute 100 miles a day like I used to do. Um, it's nice that the world is more of a connected place right now, and they don't have to be out there just on their own.
Yeah, there are definitely opportunities for that, and there's a lot of farmers that are doing a good job of using that and using social media to get the word out there about what we're doing and just to connect with each other at the same time, right? And I know I'm going to be talking in February a little bit about how I can show what's going on my farm, on a corn and soybean farm in the Midwest. I can show that, but I can't show what's happening, in the orchards out in Washington. I can't show what's happening inside of a dairy barn. I can't always show what's going on in South Texas on the vegetable farms, that kind of thing. So we need people from every different corner of the industry to be able to be out there and show people what's going on, because I can only do so much. And so I think it's important to really show the diversity of agriculture, because, in my life, agriculture is, row crop farming. But in the grand scheme of things, agriculture is so massive and so diverse when it comes to providing the food, fiber, and fuel for the world, that I think we really need people from everywhere to, put themselves out there and talk to people and say, hey, this is what's really going on. This is what we're doing. And this is why we use the management practices that we do.
Okay, so you talked about your row crop farm operation there. Give us an idea where you're located and how your season went.
So we're in west central Minnesota. We're about 40, 50 miles from both North and South Dakota, where they come together. And so I would say we had about an average year. Spring was really difficult. We had a lot of rain, trying to get everything planted. When it kept raining about every 2 to 3 days, significant amounts, was pretty difficult. We've got heavy clay soils, so it takes a while for the soils to dry out, and it was tough getting the crop in on time. And then it kept raining all summer long. We actually hired drones to spray our insecticides on our soybeans, which went very well. Because the fields were so muddy, we weren't able to get out there, and the airplanes were booked up, and we actually took a chance and hired a drone company, and it worked out really well. And about mid to end of August, it just stopped raining, and the ground got dry and hard, and the crop started drying up. And honestly, the fall went as well as it possibly could have. I don't remember another harvest where we've gone straight through without a single rain delay or anything like that. We just went from beginning to end, got the crop out, and now we've had 2 to 3 weeks of nice weather to catch up on everything after the crop has been out. So yields were close to average. Corn was a little bit above, and beans were a little bit below. So, overall, I would say pretty average year with some of the common difficulties that we run into on the farms.
What do you normally grow?
We normally grow corn and soybeans. So we did have a little bit of wheat last year. In the past, we've had some kidney beans and other things like that, but right now we're just corn and soybeans.
So no edible beans or lentils or anything like that there.
Not at this time, nope.
And you never had wheat?
Just we had 100 acres of wheat last year. My dad is 65 years old. He's farmed his whole life, and that was the first 100 acres of wheat he's ever grown.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
Livestock, anything in your history with livestock at all?
When I was young, Dad had cattle and hogs both, so I kind of grew up in my younger years around the cattle and hogs. But they were gone by about the time I was probably 12 or 13 years old, so we haven't had any livestock for a while either. But cattle and hogs were big on our farm up until the mid-90s.
So how is the post-harvest field work going? Are you all done already, or where are you on that?
Yeah, we've got some tiling projects, drain tile projects going on right now. We're working on picking some rocks and cleaning up some trees, and kind of standard property maintenance stuff that when you get a nice fall like this, you have the chance to do. And cleaning up the machinery and cleaning out the grain dryer, and we poured a little bit of concrete in one of the sheds the other day, and just really just trying to stay on top of things as best we can and take advantage of the nice weather.
Well, that's awesome. Zach, thank you so much for taking a little time to talk with us, and we look forward to meeting you. That'll be at the Family Farm Masterclass in Des Moines, Iowa. Again, jot those dates down. It'll be February 21st and 22nd in Des Moines. And just go to Comstock.com, and in the upper right-hand corner, you'll see a tab that just says Masterclass on it. You can click on that and get all kinds of information about it. And I think you can register right through that too. Anyway, thank you, Zach, for the time. We'll see you then in February. Appreciate it. All the best to you and Becky. That'll do it for this episode. For producer Brianne Hendrickson, I'm Marlon Bowling. We'll catch you next time right here on the Comstock Channel. Futures trading involves risk. The risk of loss in trading futures and or options is substantial, and each investor and or trader must consider whether this is a suitable investment. Past performance is not indicative of future results.